Deep beneath the hills of New Zealand, the Waitomo caves come alive with thousands of tiny glowworms shining like stars in the dark. Their light hangs from the cave ceiling, sparkling like nature's own chandelier. For my 100th video here on YouTube, I wanted to celebrate with a design inspired by this magical place. Today, we will create a bold pair of circular earrings featuring shimmering daggers to represent the stalactites where the glowworms shine. Ready to bring a little cave magic into your jewelry box? Let's get started! To get this earring started, the first thing that you'll need to do is have out only 3 of your items at the moment. I have my fixers, my 8-ohs, and my 11-ohs. I also have a size 11 needle, and then I have a comfortable length of Wildfire 0.006 in black today. Since we're doing with a lot of black beads and everything, I kind of wanted to keep along the same type of theme. So my fixers, if you've noticed, I have 10 of my fixtures out, so each earring is going to use 10 of them. So double check your holes, make sure each one of the holes are not clogged, so you're able to use all your fixtures and everything like that. I also have them turned upside down, where you have the middle section of your fixer. I'll hold one up a little bit closer. That middle section of your fixer, where you have the holes on the top and the holes on the bottom, and then you have that middle empty portion, is facing up towards you and is also horizontal. It's probably going to work out one way or another. If you end up picking up a bead that ends up being that way, where it's vertical, it's probably still going to be the same. I just did it this way. Just because, basically. So that's the whole reason why I did that. Now to start off, you want to have a stop bead on your thread. I have just one of my 8-ohs that I pull down to the end of my thread until I have a comfortable amount to hold on to, and then I went back through that 8-oh one more time. We're going to end up using this 8-oh in our project. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pick up your first fixer. So you have your 4 holes. You have your top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. I'm going to go through the bottom right hand hole. And then what you'll do after that is pick up an 11, an 8, and an 11. Now, which hole do you go through? That's the top of your fixer, and then here's your bottom of your fixers. Now the main reason why I kept it to where everything is horizontal, that way you'll know exactly what hole you're going through whenever you're looking at your fixers when you first pick them up. This is that bottom right hand hole, which is also the same thing as the top left hand hole, and we want to go horizontally to this hole over here. So that's the main reason why I did it this way. So you want to go down that hole, and then that puts some beads decorated on the top of your fixer. Now we're going to pick up our next fixer. So pick up your 8-oh first and go through that bottom right hand hole or top left hand hole. I'm just going to say bottom right hand hole from now on so I don't confuse too many people. Now usually what I do is you want to have a little bit of loose tension on this. You don't want it to be so tight that when you get to a point where we're going to put it into a circle here in a minute, that it's so tight that it just doesn't work. That's one reason why I use the 8-ohs down here. My first version I used the 11-ohs and it worked out fine, but when I did it again, my tension was too tight and it just didn't look right. So I'm using the 8-ohs instead. But I'm just trying to hold the fixtures to where they're like this in my hand. So you can kind of see how they're sitting. And I'm just holding on to it. And then I pick up my 11, my 8, and my 11. And then now it's a little bit easier to figure out, okay, which hole am I going through? Because you're just going to make one little line around this side of your circle. We're going to end up doing the same thing on the other side here shortly too. So I'll do this one more time a little bit faster. 8-oh, your fixer, bottom right hand hole. Pull it down to your product. Just hold on to it and make sure everything is still in a vertical or horizontal, goodness gracious, let's confuse people. Everything, all your fixtures are in a horizontal way. And then I hold on to it to make sure that it doesn't flop around in my hand any. Pick up an 11, 8, and 11, and then go through that next hole on the fixer. So that's all you do. You add your 10 fixers, And then once you get down to the very beginning, I'll meet you back and I'll show you how to go back through and complete the circle, and then how to get over to the other side so we can do basically the same thing on the other side. I'll meet you back in a second. Now that you have a hot mess of beads, your fixer beads and your 8 and 11 O's, let's make this into a circle. But now that you can see how loose my tension is, you can actually see some thread paths. I guess I should probably hold it up a little bit easier so you can kind of sort of see the thread paths and not so far away. But you can kind of see the thread path and everything, which is perfectly fine. We're going to add more beads and most of that's going to get covered up and you're not going to be able to see and or notice most of it. So I'm coming out of my last fixer. Typically this would be where you would add your next 8-0, but our next 8-0 to make it into a circle is already sitting here. That's our stop bead. So go ahead and go through your 8-0 and then proceed through the fixer, and just don't go back through any of the other beads at the moment. We'll do that on the next step. Then when you pull it down to a circle, it still looks like a hot mess. I promise it's going to be easier here very shortly. Now we need to get to this hole over here and start basically doing the same thing on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm coming out of this hole down here on the bottom. And then I'm just going to go directly over to the open hole off to the right and then go down that one. Ow! And then stick myself with the needle. Ooh, that kind of hurt. Don't do that part. That hurts. Okay. Now we're sitting at underneath that fixer bead. So, which that 8-0 is kind of making it a little bit confusing, but this is where we're sitting at. We're underneath this fixer bead. So we need to add the 8-0 like we did over here to connect to this one over here. So that's all you do. So pick up an 8-0 and then connect over to this one. And then that way we're doing the same thing on this side of the fixer. And there you go. Now you can see how you have your two 8-0s in between the two fixers. And then you just do the same thing on the top. Pick up 11, 8, and 11. Hopefully you don't throw your beads like I just did. And then go through the next open hole on that fixer that you're working on at the moment. And then you pick up an 8-0. And then go through the open hole of the next fixer. And then just continue that back around. So I will do that. I will continue around the side, and once you get done with this part, then it's going to be much easier to hold on to. It's going to look much nicer. Just make sure you're taking your time and you're making sure that you're going through the open holes that we haven't hit just yet. So I'll meet you back over here and we'll start that next step. Now that you've completed your circle, it seems to be kind of holding together a little bit better now. It's still a little wobbly here and there, but that's fine. We're about to add some more beads to make it a little bit more stable. So I'm going to go ahead and move myself back out to the outer edge and do the outer edge first, and then we'll come back at a later step and we'll do the inner edge. Now, do you need to do that in that way? No, you can probably do the inner edge and then come back out and do the outer edge. I just know with my tight tension, sometimes if I do the inner edge first, it's going to be so tight that the outer edge may be a different count of beads. You know, it's just one of those things. You can play it by ear. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and go through that first 8-0 that we added on this last step, and then proceed through the fixer, the hole that's sitting right there on the fixer. And then I'm going to go through the 11, the 8, and the 11 that's sitting on top of the fixer. Now we're going to add some beads in between. And this part is pretty simple. Pick up 4 11-0s, go through the next 11, 8, 11, and that is it. That is all you do on this section. Just like that. So after you get this part done, it's going to be a lot easier to hold on to. It's not going to wobble around as much. Just make sure you're picking up 4 seed beads. And of course, if you're using a different type of seed bead, you know, all of y'all know if you've been around for long enough with me, since this is my 100th video, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But anyways, all of y'all know I like to use my Miyuki seed beads as my bead of choice. I'm starting to get into using the Azuki seed beads as well. Those are pretty comparable to Miyuki. Toho works just as good. There's also the check beads that are out there. Those are all the different types. So it just depends on which one that you're using as to how many of these beads that you'll end up having to use in between. You may end up having to use 5 beads. You may end up only using 3. It just kind of depends on the shape and the size and the manufacturer that you're using. You can always switch them up. You can always use Toho 11-0s and you can use 8-0 or Miyuki 8-0s. You know, it's just whatever's in your stash, whatever you feel like you want to use, and whatever looks good with your project. And before I forget to mention it again, as I'm just going around and talking, this is the Beads of the Month Club that I get on a monthly basis, that if you use my discount code DINA10, then you can receive the same beads that I do on a monthly basis and then follow along. So this tutorial would be what you would be able to make if you used that discount code DINA10. So as I'm coming around to the end, I will show you how to get to the other side of the earring, and then after that I will break off and I'll let you finish the other side of the earring. Then we'll go to the interior of the earring and we'll add beads on the interior. After we add the interior portion of it, the only other thing that we need to do is add a couple of 8-0s so we can hang our we can hang our dagger from the center down here, and we can hang our ear wire from the top. Alright, so now that I'm through, this is the last 4 that I'm adding. I'm just going to go ahead and go through, eventually, just that 11, 8, and 11, and try to come out before the next 11. My needle is being stubborn. There we go. And this is going to be, it's not up against the fixer, but it's going to be fine. You're not going to notice it. More than likely this is going to be around the place that we're going to put our ear wire at anyway, but I'm just going to go straight over to the fixer, or the hole over here on this side of the fixer. So I'm coming out over here on the left and I'm going down to the right. Then when you do that, well, you know what? Let's just do it this way. I was going to go back and around and everything. You don't have to do that. Let's do it this way. Let's just come out of that bead. And now I've got myself all wrapped up with my other thread. Okay, way to go, Dina. Let's confuse everybody. Okay, there we go. So we're coming out of that 11-0 that's up here at the top. Just go over here to this side. Just go straight over. Like I said, you're not going to notice these thread paths. You're going to have so much different beadwork and everything, and here in just a second, just make sure that's loose. So you see how it was tightening up like that? Just make sure it's loose, so that way when you come back here in just a minute, then when you go back through these beads, then they'll start to sit like that. So that's all you do. Just go back around this side and add your 4 in between each of your fixers. Come back and I'll show you how to get back down to the inner part and how many beads to add down there. Now that you have all of your beads in between all of your 8-0s, or the top portions of your fixers, your earring should look something similar like this. So it looks like a nice little round circle. So now I am coming out of this bead right here. See, yeah, you can kind of see that. So I'm coming out of this bead right here. That is the 11-0 just after the 8, so that's from one of our first steps. So I'm going to go straight down that hole that is right connected to that 11-0. When you do that, I just happen to be coming out right at my stop bead again. So I'm going to go through the stop bead, and now we're going to add beads in between the 8-0s down here on the bottom. This one's just as simple as the top. Just pick up 3 seed beads, 3 of your 11-0s, go through the next 8. Pick up 3 11-0s, go through the next 8, and so on and so forth, until you get all the way around. Just make sure that when you get back to the beginning, that you can either do the same thing that we did at the top, so you'll be coming out of this 8-0 right here, you can just go ahead and jump all the way over to this one if you wanted to, or you can go up through the fixer and down through the other side of the fixer and then come out the 8/0 over there, whichever way that you want to do that. But go ahead and complete this portion and do the 3 on the inside on both the front and the back of the earring, or I guess the sides of the earring, because the front of the earring is actually going to be like this. The earring's going to hang this way, and then this is going to be on the side of the earring. So I'll show you that in just a moment. But go ahead and do that. If you feel like your tension is still really, really loose on either the outside or the inside, you can always go through these beads one more time. There's plenty of room, plenty of space to where we can still add our dagger here in a few minutes and our ear wire if we need to, even if you go through all these beads one more time. So I will meet you back I'll see you in a second or two, but for me it'll be a minute or two so I can get this part done. Alright, so when you're done with putting your 3 seed beads on the inner portion of both sides of the earring, then you should be coming out of one of your 8/0s, which I'm coming out of this one right here. I know with the black thread and the black seed beads and everything it's kind of hard, so I'm trying to show you where my thread is at. So it's coming out of this 8/0 right here. What we're going to do on this part, since we're on the inner portion, we're going to go ahead and put our dagger on. For that you're going to need one more 8/0. To get yourself set up, let's go through the next 2 11/0s that are sitting there. Trying to get my starter thread out of the way there. So we're going to proceed through the first 2. So you're basically coming out of that middle seed bead, which this is really hard to see on this little itty bitty small camera screen, but I'm hoping you can actually see that. But I'm coming out of that middle seed bead, so that second one. There you go. Now you can kind of see where I'm at. Now we're going to square stitch on that 8/0, wherever it went. It went flying somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. Okay, so we're going to square stitch on the 8/0. So we're coming out of that middle seed bead. You add your 8/0 to your thread, and then you just go straight around that same seed bead in the same direction that your thread is going in right now. This is how you do the square stitch. Now you want to make sure that your 8/0 is kind of sitting correctly. If it's kind of wonky like it's sitting like right now, it's fine. It'll straighten out in just a minute. So go ahead and go back through your 8/0, because I'm coming out of the right hand side of that 11/0, so I want to go through the right hand side of the 8/0 going towards the left hand side. Then we're going to jump from this side of the earring, so I'm going to move my needle to the other side of the earring, and we're going to square stitch this same 8/0 onto the middle seed bead on this side, which is going to be this bead right here. So go through that 11/0, and then you can always give it a little bit of a tug. But you want to go back through the 8/0 one more time. Is this sitting right? No, it's not. Okay, so you want to go back through the 8/0 one more time. Okay, so now you see, this is where I was getting messed up when I was doing my first one. Now you see that you can actually see the hole of your 8/0. You don't want to see the hole of the 8/0. So you want to make sure that your 8/0 is facing, just trying to lift it up here, is facing like this. So if you need to, you can lift it up like I just did and then go back through your 8/0. And then when you do that, that should sit your 8/0. And of course my tension is horrible right now because I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. But that should sit your 8/0 sitting like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through this bead one more time, and then go back through the 8/0. I'm going to go to the other side of the earring again, so I'm flipping it around again. You don't have to do this, but if your tension is really bad, like mine was just then, this is how you can get it to tighten up some. And now that I'm through that 8/0, I'm going to go through the 11/0 over here off to this side. And now you have your 8/0 on the interior facing in the way that we want. So go ahead and proceed back through your 8/0, and this is where we're going to add our dagger. Now you're going to have thread hanging on either side of the dagger. If that bothers you, add seed beads if you want to. Me, I just thought we're using black thread and we have black seed beads, so I think it's going to look just fine. It's totally up to you, whatever your preference is. So go ahead, add your dagger, and then go back through your 8/0. Now I'm going to do this one more time, so that way it kind of tightens it up a little bit. So I'm coming out of the 8/0 at the moment. I'm going to go back through the dagger, and then go back through that 8/0 one more time. That's the one good thing about 8/0s and using thread. You can go through your 8/0s several times and not worry about breaking the bead or anything. So now your dagger is set. So now we need to get up here to add our seed bead to where our earring will be coming out of. So we need to proceed back through that same 11/0 over here, plus the next 11/0, and you can come out before that 8/0. So we're going that direction again, towards the left, through those two seed beads. We want to go through the fixer, so the hole up here at the fixer. And then we want to go through the 11/0 that's directly next to the 8/0, and then come out the 8/0 right there. And this is where we're going to add our next 8/0. Now we want this 8/0 to actually be facing us like this, because that's the orientation of my ear wire. I want to make sure that when I'm looking at the side of the earring, that the hole of the ear wire is also the hole of the seed bead. So when you look at it front ways, then it'll look like this. So we want this seed bead to be facing you, the whole of it. So to do that, we're going to pick it up. We're going to go through the next. I'm coming out of this bottom 8/0 down here on the left hand side. I picked up the seed bead. I'm going through the top one, going from the right to the left. And see how that one sits it just like that. Then I'm going to go back through the 8/0 that we just added in between the two. And then I'm going to proceed back through the 8/0 in the front here from the right to the left. So basically you just made a figure 8 with that 8/0. And then that gets your 8/0 on to where you can add your jump ring and your ear wire. So now let's get to the point where we can get ourselves tied off. So our starter thread is on this side of our product right now, and we're on the front, or this other side. So let's get ourselves back over there. So I'm going to proceed through the one seed bead that's to the left of this 8/0 that we're coming out of currently. I'm going to go down the fixer, and then come out in between everything down here. Whoops. And try not to notch your thread up. Then I'm going to jump back over to the other side over here. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually going in between the thread here, because you're not going to see this, but I'm just getting to where the thread is sitting, where the starter thread is at, because now I'm just sitting right there and I can just tie off. So right over left, left over right. You can make a loop, go through the loop towards you, make another loop, go through the loop away from you. Basically the same thing. And then, if I can grab a hold of this and burn this down to about an eighth to a 16th of an inch. And then this may be really hard to see because it's black on black and everything, but then you'll use your thread burner and you'll make a little ball of thread up close to where the knot is at. Just like that. So now you're tied off. And the last thing that we need to do is open our ear wire, or our jump ring. Get my pliers out. Open up the jump ring. Then wiggle it through your 8/0 that we just added. Don't force it through. If it ends up being too tight or if it's not working, then you can always switch your jump ring, like use the other half, use the other side of the jump ring. Sometimes that's all it is. Other times it's the coating, so you may have to use a different size jump ring, a different gauge. Sometimes you just need to use a different jump ring of the same size and the same gauge. Sometimes they're a little bit thicker, or it's just doesn't want to work for whatever reason. You close that back up, and then now you have a finished earring. And when you get done with the other one, you have a finished pair of your Waitomo Glowworm earrings. And there you have it, a pair of earrings inspired by the enchanting glowworm caves of New Zealand, designed to celebrate my 100th video with all of you. Thank you so much for joining me on this creative journey. If you enjoyed this project, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. And if you're on the YouTube mobile app, give it a hype to help spread the glow. Here's to the next 100 designs we'll create together.